SciVive. These 9 secrets will make your life amazing. Get rich, find love, look great, and live fulfilled forever. Feel great right now. Wouldn't it feel great to get healthier, stronger, and smarter every day? How would you feel if you stood up straight right now, stretched, breathed in deeply, and thought about how lucky you are to be alive? Right now. Give it a try. Now imagine you have a superpower. Everything you tell yourself to do, you'll actually do. Life will be pretty easy from here forward, won't it? You could even tell yourself to enjoy the process. You're on your way to having that power and much more. What else might you say to yourself? Eat healthy, sleep well, love yourself, your family, your fellow man. You're off to a good start. The first step is to know that you can give yourself great advice, and you can follow it. The world of happier, healthier people starts today with you. Conversations come and go. Some very few change your life forever. This book will change your life. You're about to see the world in a whole new light. A light you'll see while everyone else seems blind to it. The meaning of life, love, wealth, and fortune itself await you in these pages. How many books have you read, and not a single thing in your life got better for it? For a book to have any value past its reading, it must benefit your life after you've closed the cover. If you have to beat yourself up figuring out how to use the information you get out of a book, it's not a great book. A great book gives you easy to understand and use ideas that make your life better right away. The secrets and strategies you discover in this book will start benefiting your life immediately. Dreams really do come true. Have you ever wondered why some people have so much and others so little? How is it that such a great difference can exist among men in this modern time? It's not an accident. The paths to greatness have followed a similar form for thousands of years. Great things happen to people every day. Stack the odds in your favor, and one day people will be looking up to you, wondering how you got so lucky. Fulfill your destiny. If you are reading this page, I already know something great about you. You're the kind of person that knows the future can be brighter. Your future. You believe in yourself. You know there's better and worse ways to do things, and you prefer the better. You like to learn new things, particularly things you'll be able to use. Your entire life has led up to this moment, this turning point, where you found the book that would change your life forever. Today is that day. You will dream the dream, then you will live it. Your life will exceed your wildest dreams. Maximize the greed and minimize risk by restricting the benefits to kids and the worthy. What is it people actually want in life? SciViving. Knowledge isn't power. Intelligent action is power. Let's be serious. If reading a book on how to get what you wanted was all you needed to do, well, by golly, you'd see a world full of fulfilled people. Knowledge is but the first step. The habits built by taking correct action do the heavy lifting. Knowledge without action is like a car that's run out of gas. It could get you where you want to go, and it's nice that you have one, but you need the fuel. Survival defined SciViving. People so fulfilled that they have the time, money, and desire to invest in their family's survival. Survivors. Our core principles are that life has 9 parts. You. Mind, body, spirit. Amplifiers. Money, power, respect. Becomes you. Schedule, environment, experience. You are what you think, what you feel, and your body. You will become what you do, what surrounds you, and the experiences you have. How fast and how well you become your future self is amplified by the money, power, and relationships you build. We know that advancements in medicine have the greatest benefits for our loved ones and ourselves. Science is the best tool we have to take mankind to the next level. We fight the reaper on our feet, while cowards kneel and pretend that nothing can be done. When the genie grants us wishes, we wish for more wishes. We know that a life well lived is one of balance, enjoying today to its fullest while preparing for tomorrow. Lucky are we that being happier, healthier, and loved adds not only joy to our years, but years to our joy. Life is quality x quantity. Quality. Being the best you, having the best things, relationships, and experiences. Quantity. A great life, cut short, is tragic. The system. The systems that helped you into this world and that you may still operate in, education, finance, politics, affect you on a day-to-day basis. Their scope, however, is usually so large and they have so much momentum that they should be focused on separately from the things you can affect quickly and easily in your day-to-day life. Understanding these larger systems is more important the larger your sphere of influence becomes, because just like giant ships the size of apartment buildings, there's still a single captain who can turn the wheel and change direction. You may be that captain or have his ear one day. The magic lens of survival splits the light of life into 9 different wavelengths you can tune into. Prism image here with life splitting into these parts. If you want your personality to shine a pure white light, you need to have all of the colors in balance. When you're out of balance, you tint everything you look at. A pure white light makes it easier to see everything. Without balance, you will not see things for what they really are, nor people. This is one of many gifts that living as a survivalist will give you. You'll be able to see and understand things that most people can't. Focus, color, action, association. Mind, green. Think, grass, the base, the color we see best. Body, red. Move, blood pumping. Spirit, blue. Feel, moonlight, wonderment. Money, orange. Buy, construction, creation. Power, brown, strike, earth, sports. Respect, pink, tell, we're all pink on the inside. Time, cyan. Do, blue shift from speed. Environment, yellow. Synergize, the sun powers everything. Experience, magenta. Enjoy, fulfillment of body and spirit. If you know about color mixing, you'll notice interesting things about which colors represent which keys. Try mixing them together or breaking them into parts. For instance, magenta is red plus blue. Splitting life into 3 sets of 3 while observing the present, the future, and the speed is like eating through the tasty bits of life. You can only focus on so much stuff at a time, chunking. Our brains are a little like our mouths. When you want to eat a sandwich, you do it in bites. And if you try to put too much sandwich in a single bite, the chewing stops working. You just lock up. Your brain works most effectively when it's given just the right amount of information to digest. That's why splitting quality of life into 3 groups of 3 is so useful. 3 is a magic number. Think of how many things come in 3s. The magic of 3s. We all have height, width, and depth. We see color with red, green, and blue, light-sensing cells in our eyes. We describe sound as the highs, mids, and lows. We describe sizes as small, medium, and large. Even the saying blood, sweat, and tears was originally blood, sweat, toil, and tears, but we prefer 3s. That's the way we remember it. It's also the least number of walls you need to enclose a space. Best for sub-positioning. Seating position. Speaker height. Seating height in a room. 1/3 for photography. Include top, middle, bottom, and the minimum number of legs to stand something up as 3. Need it to triangulate a signal. 2 listeners point in the direction they hear it and point at each other. Make a triangle and you know where the source is. Inch, foot, mile. Past, present, future. Hendria Tyrus. Input, process, output. Rule of thirds in photography. Pi is basically 3.0. Wikipedia links regarding the rule of 3. Isocolon. Tripartite motto, and more. Now, you could say that all this 3 magic is a natural consequence of counting starting with 1, which wouldn't be exciting, or 2, which I'm sure we could find many cool pairs for, then triplets. And so 3 is the lowest countable number. where more complicated effects start happening, because pairs can only be so exciting. Rock, paper, scissors is more fun than just rock and paper, because they're so effective in communicating, math, and building. I think it's worth it to know the power of threes. We split up the sounds we hear by frequency: high, middle, low, hot, cold, good. Dark, bright, good. Loud, quiet, good. Small, medium, large. We understand the world best in threes. Examples: understanding where things are. It's the best way to locate an idea in space. We triangulate it. Subject, verb, object, point, direction, speed. Some fun ways to remember the color guide are to notice how you can mix and match some to make others, and associate them with things you like in each subject. The symbol of survival. The 9 points cover with the SciVive center. Enneagram, geometry, link. SciVive is a great name for a movement. It's an action. The title survival is interesting as opposed to other belief items because it entails the thought of mortality. The vival part kind of clues you into something that's coming to kill you, whether it's someone who doesn't like you so much or the passage of time. I think it's important to differentiate a belief in survival through scientific advancement from simply surviving. You don't want to just have a life that sucks and lasts longer. You want a great life that lasts longer. Meta note about differentiation. The meaning of life. Quality X. Time. And nearly everything that increases time also increases quality, so lucky us. The meaning of life is quality times quantity. It is pretty easy to prove. Also, this is an impossible and incomplete question. What is the meaning of bread? Am I hungry, or am I choking on it? Did I steal it? Is it moldy? Anyway, there is no such thing as meaning except what you give it, and perhaps what other entities with power over you give it. Even that changes. What you think about things changes with age, how you've been treated, and how the world has changed. Why do I feel so compelled to venture down the rabbit hole of intuition, superstition, and the occult? Because it wastes a shitload of everyone's time. So many people waste so much time in unenjoyable ways when they could be wasting it in more fun ways. The emptiness of searching for meaning externally. The system works better when people are different. We are all different, and even more different than these systems would have you believe. And it is not an accident. We are supposed to be different. It's the reason we have sex. In this world, during the course of life's existence, there have always been living things that make copies of themselves. The problem with just making a copy of yourself is that it doesn't leave much room for the next generation to be better than you. There is a little bit of change introduced from the inaccurate copying. You could call them mutations. Then sex came along, and the world rejoiced. Sex is a great way to get offspring, to have a chance to be better than what came before them. Not only do you get lots of change, because you're quite literally mixing the blueprints of two entirely, I hope, different people. If you have kids with people biologically related to you, it leads to bad health outcomes for the kids, and in many places is illegal. With sex between non-biologically related partners, you also get this great effect of both partners choosing the traits that they like the most out of a large pool of potential partners. That, you see, is how you get faster and faster, smarter and smarter, prettier and prettier people as a result of years of everyone choosing their favorites and mixing it up. Why do I mention all of this about sex in a chapter about categorizing life? So you can kick ass in all its good areas and not miss any through lack of clarity? Because if it is true that we're all different, and it's true that we are supposed to be, as in species such as humans, with wide variations in abilities, desires, and behaviors that are vastly superior in survival to one-trick ponies, where if the situation changes even a little, everyone can get wiped out. If you don't have variation in your species, you are not durable. The world is constantly changing. It's good to be durable. Being an omnivore is fun. Thus, if it's good that we are all different, and if it's good that we are continually more different than what came before us, then it's also good that we don't all have the same needs and the same priority. Therefore, all of the hierarchies of the needs of men, such as Maslow's, are deeply flawed from the start by assuming that people are so similar as to have the same needs in the same order. I assure you, they do not, which is good news for humanity. If we spent time analyzing how wrong everyone is and has been on everything, we would be here for all time. Much better that we use our short and valuable time together, focusing on what works and not what doesn't. Thus, your meaning of life should be slightly different from that of many other people. There is robustness for the system through diversity of opinion and behavior. Failed philosophies. Minimize us versus them, tread lightly with shit talk, better to append than replace. Most philosophers weren't very successful. Philosophy, and most other isms and ides, do not pay the profits to their followers that they should. This is because the questions they attempt to answer are usually totally useless to you. If you like or dislike capitalism, what say do you have regarding its deployment in the world? If you like or dislike man's relationships with the companies that employ him, as much as Marxism is concerned, what can you do with that belief? Most books appear more useful than they are. Specific advice benefits the reader more at the cost of the writer. Some advice guys are afraid to give you specific advice. They like to leave their market appeal broad by being vague in what they tell you. I prefer to tell you the truth. I'll tell you what's good for you where I can, even at the cost of cool points. Whoever influences you first sets your bias. As a young man, you come into this world being influenced from all angles. Many great men have been forced into greatness because of harsh circumstances. Life is a many-splendored thing. Often what you thought was a curse turns out to be a blessing. All of us have the fortune of misfortune. The most respected and successful people in this world have always had one or more hardships early in life. If you were to find someone who you thought had no hardship, upon questioning them, you'd likely find they experienced discomfort in an area you may never have thought of, or not even approved of, but it was real for them. We stand on the backs of giants. We speak languages we didn't invent, and travel on roads we didn't pave. So too are most of the thoughts handed down to us, without needing to invent them ourselves. Isms give us paths to follow, and billions do. The playbooks and perspectives of organizing the world into parts, and suggested actions on those parts, are quite few really. Philosophy, communism, capitalism, Marxism are all interesting ways to see the world. However, ultimately, they are not very useful to you, as they don't really answer the more important questions. What do you do? What can you do better to get what you want out of life? Paths laid out for us. Inside each of us there is a circuitry that has served our ancestors for thousands upon thousands of years. It is with you today because it works. Nature tends to get rid of things that don't work. Oddly, nature tends to get rid of everything over time. We should make that another chapter called 99% of everything that has ever existed is permanently extinct. It's an amazing fact, really. Okay, back to the circuitry. Remember earlier in this fine book I told you that when you come into the world, you are influenced from all angles. Those angles are not only external, they are internal to you as well, both mental and chemical. The influence of heredity, custom, and location all leave a mark. When I travel the world, people easily hear that I'm American by the way I speak. They have preconceived notions about what it means to be American, how Americans act, and what use we are. If you wanted to ask someone how to make great tea, you'd likely rather ask an Englishman since it's much more popular there. If you wanted to know how to throw a football, you'd be better off asking an American. The influence of your parents, geography, language, skin color, education, natural abilities, and talents will all play a role in how you turn out in life. Here's the most interesting part. Not all of those things put together, the entire mass of it, will ever compare to your drive. A driven person can overcome great adversity and sometimes even become a hero. There is a special place in our souls for the role of hero. When we see someone do something amazing, whether in the Olympics, on the battlefield, or at home, there's a calling deep within us that wants to reward them and rejoice because they brought something into reality we've so often dreamt of. Even if not consciously, some part of us knows that what they did was great, and we should smile and stand tall in admiration. As it stands, I'd say my favorite quote of all time is, "Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. The slogan, 'Press on,' has solved and always will solve the problems of the human race." A lot of people who haven't read The Art of War like to bash it, saying that everyone who reads it tries to turn everything else into war, so that the learning of the book can be applied. If people who read it are misapplying it, then sure. In reality, what you will find is that the conflicts that exist in war also exist outside of war. Just as Shakespeare might say something along the lines of, "To thy own self be true," or perhaps even biblically, if you Google the phrase, "know thy enemy," you'll come up with Sun Tzu's 2,500-year-old book, which has been adapted through the centuries. Originally it was, "If you know thyself, with every battle you will also have a loss. If you know thyself and your enemy, you can fight 100 battles without a loss. If you know the enemy but not thyself, you will also lose a fair amount of your battles." I don't really believe that knowing yourself has to be war. I think that knowing yourself can exist in all formats that are not war. I think that understanding what you are pushing against, even if it isn't another conscious actor, it might be the cold, laziness, or even cooking food properly, is essential. Every good story is pushed against some weight. Therefore, the statement, "Know thyself and thy enemy," is super useful in all contexts, particularly those outside of war. Much of what he said is probably easier adapted for warlike use. However, my point is that the reason that book has lasted for 2,500 years as a great source of advice is not because we are all warriors and generals constantly at war, but because it offers universally badass and useful advice in many areas of life. What an absolutely fantastic quote. This quote is around 100 years old. It's funny how good advice never expires. If you care to look, you can find advice that is literally thousands of years old, and still good. Maybe what's actually most important to you isn't the cool novel stuff I came up with that makes my book feel valid. Maybe what you need is the basic stuff that got me to the position where I could build these ideas. That same basic stuff gets you to a position where you can build and give back. In other words, don't be so in love with the ideas you built after you achieved. Pay homage to the ideas that allowed you to achieve as well. The precedent ideas. Every path gets taken. People will follow all the paths, advertising more good paths to outcompete the bad ones. When you understand the whole system, when you see the earth as a tiny blue dot, you can play in the game when you want. And you can be okay with not playing the game because you know what all the endings look like. All paths shall be followed, even fake ones you made up for shits and giggles. Spamming good ones is a great idea. It's a contact sport. Reference to James Randi's fake mystic creation story and the curse of the scammed. Note, what specifically did he call it? Stockpiling food and ammunition feels great, but doesn't pay off. Survivalists and preppers spend lots of time and money on things that rarely pay off. The survivalists of the 50s prepared for a Russian invasion, then got killed by the same boring stuff that killed most of their ancestors. You're much more likely to die with a whimper than a bang these days. Book's design. Artful beats, accurate. It was interesting to me when I decided to do things less accurately, but in a way that felt better. For instance, including spirit as a section. Most people understand spirit as something beyond them, past or deeper than them. It's beyond personality, beyond behavior. I don't believe in that concept, but since I know everyone else does to such a great degree, I'm going to use the word spirit in a slightly different way. I'm going to say it's the emotions, and drives that move you, things most people might normally put under mind, but close enough to the ephemeral and artsy that they'll accept it as spirit. It was interesting that I chose to go with ideas that feel good, are emotionally compelling, and easier to digest, instead of more accurate, alien, off-putting, and less likely to be executed. Today, I'm proud to say I made a logical extension to support that decision. So, if you must choose between absolute accuracy and a version that feels about 80% as accurate, but is more appealing, you should go with the feels-good version. In the grand scheme of things, these are not recipes that will be followed to the letter. People will only perform a very, very small, less than 1% subset of what you tell them to do. If you make a small adjustment for the sake of being memorable, transmissible, or sticky, or simply to synchronize with a common parable that people believe in, such as there's no free lunch, or time heals all wounds, then you're better off doing it. They're unlikely to execute on the specific detail you weren't 100% accurate on. Instead, they'll execute on the parts you made clear, enhancing 99% of the message by not alienating them with overly technical or unspecific language that causes them to pause and overthink. If you can't say something simply, you don't understand it well enough. Simplicity is power. Most people are beginners. I think that most people haven't completed reading any self-help material, let alone most of the classics. So let's not assume they are where you are, or that they don't need to know what you already take for granted. Most people don't follow their own advice, let alone yours. If I wrote a book that said, eat healthy, brush your teeth, exercise, no one would read it. What people want to read is the stuff they haven't heard a million times. The novel, unique, outrageous ideas that make a book worth reading. The best books are like magnifying glasses. Their value is in all the things they don't show. The most important part of writing a book isn't to present all the data you have on a subject. In an ideal world, where one has a shitload of memory and internet access, they already have access to everything. What they need from you is less, not more. They don't need more data. They need less data. You need to refine and hone their limited attention span on something truly beneficial, not bombard them with a million details that confuse the issue. Bruce Lee said, "I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times." Get more out of the book. Demand results from your study of this work. A book is as good as the actions you take from it, and by proxy, the actions others take from it through the ideas passing through you. If I wrote a book where you simply followed instructions without all the convincing filler text, would it be the greatest book? Demand more from your life. Low expectations are the father of regret. If all your dreams came true instantly, what would your life look like? Set a new standard. Dream the dream. Live the dream. In this world, you're either making your dreams come true or someone else's. Take responsibility. Own your future. This is meant to change your life, to improve the actions you take. It is not meant to add to the long list of things you know you should do, but aren't doing. Life schedule? You're only awake 16 hours a day. Now subtract out all the hours where you have to be doing something. How many hours are left? 3? This is your free time. Choose wisely how you spend these precious few hours. Prioritization? Deadlines. If your schedule hasn't changed when you finish this book, read it again, because you're only going to get the improvement you want in your life when it's scheduled and acted on. You never step in the same river twice. It changes, and over time, so do you. When you read with the result in mind, you notice and remember the parts that are most important for you. SciVive offers something different to each person who reads it. Everyone is at a different place in their journey, and as you progress, you'll see that parts that once seemed ordinary take on new meaning. A real conversation is the highest aspiration of a well-written book. Most books are nothing like a conversation. In a conversation between equals, you listen at least as much as you speak. The dazed look on someone's face tells you when you need to explain more. Sometimes you can almost feel what's going on inside your conversation partner's mind. their eagerness waiting for a pause to add to the dialogue. A conversation where everyone is learning and building is a beautiful thing. A book is merely a two-dimensional representation of such a glorious event. If what you have to say is important enough to make into a book, then it is surely important enough to be written in a language your audience understands. If you want to have a good time speaking with teenagers, the elderly, hippies, and CEOs, you'd better learn to speak a few different languages. I truly believe that if you speak to someone as a friend, interested in what they are interested in, you can share a great bond. Since I'm not here with you to ask personally about the things you care about, we're going to have to settle for you choosing your own adventure. You can leave the parts of this conversation that are least important to you for later. What we're going to cover in this book is so broad and touches so many people in so many places that it can be seen from hundreds of perspectives. I'm quite sure where one person finds an idea exciting, another will be enraged. What could be more fun? An open mind learns better. There's time to argue afterward. Greatest profit in controversial things. We deal in controversial subjects because those are the areas with the most profit. The more people that are doing something wrong, the more profit there is in changing it to do it right. Sadly, people doing things wrong usually think they're doing them right, and perhaps even better than everyone else. Telling people what they're doing wrong and how to do it better usually pisses them off. Find freedom by not becoming the devil's advocate. We're lucky when we meet someone who is not only passionate about their subject, but also knowledgeable. Naturally, you want to impress such a person to be worthy of the conversation. What are the most common ways you've seen this happen? You can't simply repeat the same ideas that were just given to you. You might come up with a novel idea that adds to theirs. However, since they're likely more knowledgeable and have been thinking about it longer, it might be more impressive if you constructively build on their idea instead of just disagreeing. There is an easy way, a shortcut to feeling important: destruction. Let them know why they're wrong. Let them know why it won't work, shouldn't work, or can't work. This is great stuff. In an original conversation, if you only added a small icing on their idea cake, you'd seem like just an accessory. Now that you disagree, you are their equal or greater. Screw the quest for truth, which pays off only after many days. Feeling important pays off right now. Think about the last time you tried to explain to someone that they were doing something wrong, and remember the mental gymnastics you witnessed. It takes a great person to skip the easy route, to bide their time in silence while thinking of something great to add. When the gambit pays off, and you can constructively build on your conversation partner's idea, rather than simply disagreeing, true friendships are made. Imagine how many different ways there are to believe about a thing. Take, for instance, bicycles. Some people absolutely hate it when a bicycle is too close to their side view mirror while driving, fearing they might hit it. Meanwhile, another person might see a bicycle as a chance to save money on gas, improve their health, and even help the environment. Two people with two very different perspectives, perhaps both valid at different times. These kinds of hard-to-square wars of perspective are happening all the time. Imagine how much easier it is to find disagreement instead of constructing on ideas. We humans are very interesting in that we're exceptionally good at not understanding things when we don't want to. There are a couple of old sayings that capture this idea well. You cannot wake a man pretending to sleep. It is difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it. Why mention this? Because sometimes we are that man. Anyone who has ever changed their mind about something was likely unhappy to hear someone disagreeing with them at first. Once we've changed our mind, we quickly forget how strongly we once believed the opposite. No one likes to think they were ever wrong, and probably even less that they might be wrong again soon. You're going to get the most out of this book, and life, if you find ways to extract useful knowledge and focus on learning and becoming more powerful, rather than getting caught up in the bravado of disagreement. If the need for disagreement becomes too hard to bear, boot up good old YouTube and comment your anger away, as so many do these days. Are you the type of person who is good at learning new things? What is the maximum amount that you can agree with what I'm saying? Think about how much you have actually used or changed based on all the books you have read in your life. Do you think you should get more out of them? What could you do to get the most out of this book for yourself? Smarts are genetic. If mental illness can be inherited, why not mental wellness or even mental superiority? Schizophrenia has about 80% concordance amongst twins, yet it was once thought to be caused by bad parenting. IQ intro. Kinetic ability versus potential ability. People overestimate the value of intelligence in comparison to motivation and delayed gratification. How many people do you see living up to their potential? Is it because they don't know what to do, or because they won't do what they should? If the difference in results is one of traction rather than horsepower, then don't worry so much about someone's bigger or smaller motor. Cascading advantage. People underestimate the value of small changes in some types of intelligence. These small improvements cascade. If you learn how to learn faster or better, it will cascade across all new learning. Imagine a bookshelf, organized, versus a stack of books, unorganized. Some people develop tricks early on that act like shelves. Hit a golf ball a little crooked and see how crooked it ends up 100 yards away. Different is better. This social programming to search for equality among men ignores the value of evolution, competition, meritocracy, and the resultant emergent fitness and excellence. Being different, sometimes better, sometimes worse, is a requirement for robustness and progress. See higher resolution. Measure mental ability more like physical ability. Look at the detail measured in the NFL Combine, and when you create an IQ test, you use specific strategies to avoid cultural bias and to measure useful traits, such as memory, speed, visualization, and the ability to rotate objects in one's mind. Why not simply declare the results by category? The test maker knew what was being measured. There's no reason to lump everything together. You might do less than you could and know more than you need. What happens to those who exercise and eat well? They become fit. Are you fit? If you're unfit, is it due to a lack of knowledge? Any exercise works. Any diet works. Eat less, move more. It's certainly not the knowledge that's the problem. Millions choose to learn instead of doing, and they die unaccomplished despite being smart. This is the quiet desperation of the intelligent. Be smart, even wise, but only as a means, not an end. Knowing isn't doing, and knowledge isn't action. What you need isn't more know-how. You need more desire. If the world transformed to one where everyone did what they thought they should, then it would need more know-how. While you live in a world where almost no one does all the things they say they should, you have more of a discipline problem than a knowledge problem. Would you rather have your cake or eat it? There's a similar challenge in choosing between knowing how to do something and actually doing it. They're related but quite different in practice. That's why great sports players learn from coaches who may not be able to play better than they can. Knowing and doing are different yet related. Grow your mind with action as your guide. Adding more things you know you should do, but don't, only brings pain. The value of knowledge comes solely from its application. Amplifiers, chemical stimulants, caffeine, amphetamines, and even the chemicals your brain produces after meditation or firing an empowering pattern. Habit mindset. Internal language. The tricks you use to keep exercising are the same tricks you can use to keep thinking about hard things. If I can't, I must is one such internal command. See the structure. Abstract, categorize, chunk. What is it like? Environment. Silence colon. There is nothing but the work. Your mind will nudge you every few seconds to do the old bad things you used to do, but if you tell your mind to fuck off repeatedly, eventually it stops trying to steer you toward those habits. As you starve out the old habit, eventually it dies. Speak a single language. If it's better to express new, better ideas in a single language, then do so rather than splitting your thoughts across several languages. Learn the language you need, whether it's the language of business, as advised by Warren Buffett, accounting, scalability, programming, or entrepreneurship, influence. Stop breaking words. Perception, attention, lens, focus, paradigm. Focus control, attention economy. Have high standards for what you pay attention to. Back in the good old days, it was hard to find information. Now it's too easy. We went from having to meet people physically to speaking over the phone, then email, texting, and now we rarely even need to speak because we have Wikipedia, YouTube videos, blogs, and Twitter. We are drowning in content. The signal is always lower in quantity than the noise. If you have good standards for what you should be paying attention to, then distractions such as clickbait and social proof won't sway you. Every day, more bad content and wrong ideas are produced, faster and more convincingly than good content and right ideas. Because less time is spent building good ideas, those who churn out bad ideas often have extra time to market them better. That's a tragedy, because those with the best ideas are too busy building them to market them. Lens of survivalism. What you look at affects how you feel. Don't focus on the suck. If you grew up around negative influences, you're likely to absorb those behaviors. At any given moment, an infinite amount of good and bad is happening. Your feelings and your perception of the world depend on what you focus on. Imagine yourself as a crystal, a cool-looking shard or a figurine, like a bear. Your eyes accept the light you look at. If you tune into a beautiful white or blue light, that's what you will radiate and feel. Others will see the light you focus on. If you focus on something negative, you will feel and retransmit that negativity. You become what you focus on and become good at what you do. Also, consider how a prism divides white light into its component colors. If you recombine those colors, you get white light again. That is balance. As soon as you're missing one component, you can't recreate white light. Don't focus on problems. Instead, rephrase in a positive light. If you focus on problems, you get more problems. Positive rephrasing is important. Focus on what you don't want only for as long as it takes to invert it and create the positive understanding of what you do want. For example, when striving for fitness, focus on fitness rather than obsessing over fat. Understanding your perception through senses. Not only are you different from how you used to be, but your vision, taste, and overall perception also change over time. For instance, music is influenced by the Fletcher-Munson curves. Your hearing changes based on the loudness of a sound. It is widely accepted that mastering music with a reference volume of 75 to 85 decibels is ideal because that's where hearing is most linear. Without a calibrated decibel meter, it's hard to judge loudness by ear alone. Similar principles may apply to brightness and other sensory perceptions. Our brains are not perfect. You always see your nose but quickly learn to ignore it. You don't notice your eyes blinking even though they momentarily block your vision. Animals and machines can see things like infrared or polarized light, which we cannot. This shows that while your perception is unique, it might differ from another person's. So when one person sees dark blue and another sees purple, it may be due to differences in their sensory input or internal processing. Standards are important for communication. Even though our individual perceptions vary, having agreed upon standards, like brightness levels measured in candela per square meter, helps us communicate. Standards act as a language that the world speaks, enabling interoperability and mutual understanding. Intelligence and learning. If mental illness is heritable, why not mental wellness, or even mental superiority? IQ tests often try to measure intelligence while avoiding cultural bias. However, people tend to overvalue raw intelligence versus motivation. Many intelligent people remain unaccomplished because they choose to learn instead of doing. Knowledge is only as valuable as its application. Knowing isn't doing. Cascading advantage in learning. Small improvements in how you learn can have cascading effects. When you develop techniques early, they serve as a foundation, like shelves that organize a stack of books, helping you build and apply knowledge more efficiently. The role of exercise and diet. Exercise and proper nutrition make you fit. If you're unfit, it may not be due to a lack of knowledge, but rather a lack of action. Millions choose to learn instead of doing, and they end up unaccomplished, despite being smart. It is essential to develop discipline so that knowledge turns into action. Amplifiers in learning. In addition to raw knowledge, various factors, chemical stimulants, internal language, and environment, amplify our ability to learn. For example, the chemicals released after meditation or physical exertion can help reinforce neural pathways. Internal language and mindset. The internal dialogue you maintain can help you persevere through challenges. Phrases like, "If I can't, I must," serve as internal commands that reinforce discipline and help form productive habits. Learning environments and habit formation. Your environment, its silence and structure, can greatly influence your productivity. When distractions are minimized, for example by shutting off your phone, you can focus better on your work. Over time, repeated behavior turns into habit, and habits require little conscious effort. Learning is enhanced by structuring your day. Plan your tasks and build a routine that rewards progress. This not only saves mental energy, but also helps in rewiring old, unhelpful habits. Reward yourself for accomplishments. A system of rewards and planned breaks can lead to more effective learning. Perception and standards in everyday life. Our sensory perceptions are fallible and subject to personal bias. Recognizing that others might perceive the same stimulus differently can help avoid unnecessary arguments. Standards, such as a calibrated measure of brightness, help bridge these differences. Knowledge versus intelligence and the application of knowledge. If mental illness can be inherited, why not mental wellness? Or even mental superiority? Many people learn lots of facts, yet knowing isn't the same as doing. Intelligence is like the engine that smashes ideas together to create new ones, while knowledge is the fuel. You can increase knowledge much more easily than raw intelligence. It's like walking longer versus running faster. You can always add more steps, but doubling your running speed isn't as simple. What you know and your ability to use that knowledge are only loosely related. This means you could learn many facts and still have little idea of how to apply them. Conversely, someone who appears naturally intelligent might not know how to use that raw intelligence in the real world. If you exercise and eat well, you become fit. But many intelligent people choose to learn instead of doing, and they end up unaccomplished. In other words, having more knowledge isn't as valuable as having the desire and discipline to act on that knowledge. If the world were to change so that everyone did what they thought they should, it would need more know-how. But in our current reality, almost no one does all the things they claim they should, indicating that the real problem is often discipline, not a lack of knowledge. Amplifiers, habit, and the learning environment. Chemical and internal amplifiers. Beyond raw knowledge, factors such as chemical stimulants, caffeine, amphetamines, or even naturally produced brain chemicals from meditation can amplify your ability to learn. Equally important is your internal language, the self-talk that keeps you pushing through when tasks get hard. Phrases like, "If I can't, I must," exemplify how your mindset can become a tool in developing discipline. Environment and habit formation. Your environment greatly influences your work. When distractions are minimized, for example, by shutting off your phone or finding a quiet space, you can focus better. Repeatedly performing an action eventually turns it into a habit that requires less conscious effort. Building effective habits, through planning, scheduling, and rewarding yourself, is key to overcoming the tendency to learn without doing. Silence and focus. There is power in a silent, distraction-free environment. When you remove the noise, your mind can concentrate on the task at hand, and over time, the unwanted habits die out. Standards and routines, such as using a specific language for your work, or establishing a quiet workspace are critical to help your mind sort through the flood of information. Perception, standards, and cognitive biases. Understanding perception. What you look at directly affects how you feel. For example, if you focus on negative aspects of the world, those feelings will come to dominate your outlook. By contrast, if you concentrate on positive images or ideas, much like a crystal that refracts beautiful light, you end up radiating positivity. A prism divides white light into its component colors. Only when these colors are balanced does the light appear white. In a similar way, if you focus too narrowly on one aspect of life, you lose the full picture. Standards, like calibrated brightness in monitors, help align our perceptions with objective reality, even though individual senses may vary. Cognitive biases and fallacies. Our brains are prone to biases such as correlation versus causation. Just because two events occur together does not mean one caused the other. Unqualified percentages. Percentages are meaningless unless you know of what they are calculated. Framing effects. The way information is presented can drastically alter your perception of it. Understanding these biases is essential. Recognizing, for instance, that small discounts might be perceived as larger increases in price, or that a percentage change must be qualified, can save you from making poor decisions. Education, liberal arts, and real-world application. Critique of traditional education. Much of traditional education is built around ideas and courses that do not directly benefit real-world outcomes. Often, the content taught is based on outdated decisions made thousands of years ago. For example, liberal arts curricula may focus on subjects that are less applicable to today's fast-paced, technology-driven world. Instead of memorizing vast amounts of information that you will never use again, focus on acquiring actionable knowledge. The true value of education lies in transforming what you learn into effective action. Practical learning versus memorization techniques, such as deliberate practice, spaced repetition, and mnemonic devices, are far more valuable than speed reading. Memorization without understanding is an illusion of competence. For instance, the method of low CI, or memory palace technique, can help you store and retrieve information more efficiently than rote memorization. Creativity, problem solving, and decision making. The role of creativity. Creativity is not just about coming up with completely new ideas. It's also about synthesizing existing ideas in novel ways. Metaphors and analogies are powerful tools for this synthesis. By comparing abstract concepts to familiar ones, you can deepen your understanding and communicate complex ideas more effectively. Problem solving and decision making. Effective problem solving often involves acting before you have complete information. Many brilliant ideas emerge from doing rather than from endless planning. In business and in life, it's usually more beneficial to start solving today's problems rather than waiting for tomorrow's perfect solution. Sometimes your first plan won't work. This is where pivoting comes in. If you find yourself stuck, try switching to an easier problem to build momentum, then return to the challenging one with a fresh perspective. Feedback loops. A key element of learning and improvement is having reliable feedback. Whether you're building a business, solving a technical problem, or engaging in creative endeavors, immediate and clear feedback allows you to adjust your actions and optimize outcomes. This is true in both personal projects and larger endeavors like software development and product design. Machine intelligence, modern tools, and the future of learning. Machine intelligence and human learning. Modern technology has given us tools like artificial intelligence and advanced search engines, think Google Few, that make accessing information nearly instantaneous. While machines can quickly process and classify data, human creativity and insight remain crucial for applying that knowledge in meaningful ways. Leveraging modern tools. The ease of finding free information means that the value isn't in the knowledge itself, since it's already available, but in the ability to use it effectively. Your phone is a supercomputer that connects you to a world of knowledge. Use these tools to amplify your own ideas and innovations. Memory techniques and cognitive tools. Enhancing memory. Memory techniques such as the method of loci, chunking, spaced repetition, and mnemonic devices are essential. Grouping information into easily recalled chunks and associating them with visual cues can improve your recall and deepen your understanding. For instance, associating a memorable image with a complex formula can make it much easier to remember. Avoiding over-reliance on memorization. In today's world, where nearly every fact is available online, it's not necessary to commit everything to memory. Instead, focus on developing your ability to process and synthesize information. This working memory is what enables you to solve new problems, not just recite known facts. Creativity, synthesis, and the role of feedback. Developing creativity. Creativity often emerges when you mix ideas from different domains. By using analogies, metaphors, and even experimenting with different environments, like changing the color of your surroundings or your posture, you can spark new insights and innovative solutions. Synthesis. Synthesis is the process of combining different ideas into a coherent whole. It is the highest expression of creative thought, turning disparate pieces of information into a new, valuable concept. In many ways, synthesis is like mental sex, producing beautiful offspring of ideas that did not exist before. Feedback loops in creativity. A strong feedback loop is critical for creative work. Whether you're working on a design, writing a book, or developing a business idea, getting immediate and honest feedback helps you refine your ideas. Without feedback, you may persist in a flawed approach simply because you are unaware of its shortcomings. Decision-making, problem-solving, and avoiding paralysis. Effective decision-making. Knowing a lot of things does not automatically make you a good decision-maker. It is crucial to learn when to act and when to pause for reflection. Sometimes, simply flipping a coin can break the cycle of overthinking. The key is to avoid analysis paralysis by taking decisive action even when you don't have every detail. Solving today's problems. Focus on solving the problems that are present rather than worrying about those that may never occur. In business and in life, over-optimizing for a future that may never come can rob you of the ability to tackle immediate challenges. Concentrate on the issues you face right now. Avoiding the problem of others. Do not live your life by solving problems that belong to others. Instead, concentrate on what you perceive as your own problems. By doing so, you free yourself from the constraints of other people's beliefs and misidentifications, allowing you to forge your own path. Modern tools, cognitive biases, and the future of education. Modern tools and the knowledge economy. We live in an era when nearly all the world's knowledge is available for free. What matters most is not the knowledge itself, but your ability to use it to create new value. Being able to find, filter, and apply information faster than others is a competitive advantage. Understanding cognitive biases. Be aware of biases such as confirmation bias, survivorship bias, and the unqualified percentage fallacy. These biases can distort your understanding of the world and lead to poor decisions. Recognizing them is the first step in overcoming their influence. Education and practical application. Traditional education often focuses on memorization and regurgitation rather than real-world application. The future of education lies in teaching how to learn, think critically, and apply knowledge effectively. The focus should be on building systems that reward action and practical problem solving, rather than theoretical understanding alone. Advanced cognitive tools and techniques. Machine intelligence and modern tools. Modern technology, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and advanced search capabilities, what some call Google Phew, has transformed how we access and use information. While machines can process and classify data at incredible speeds, human creativity remains essential for applying that knowledge in meaningful ways. Your phone is a supercomputer connecting you to a world of information. The competitive edge lies in how you use it. Memory enhancement techniques. Memory techniques such as the method of loci, chunking, spaced repetition, and mnemonic devices remain vital. By grouping information into easily recalled chunks and associating them with visual cues or familiar environments, you can greatly improve recall and understanding. For instance, associating a complex formula with a vivid image or a familiar place in your memory palace makes retrieval easier. Remember, in today's world, it isn't necessary to memorize every detail because almost all information is accessible online. What matters is building strong working memory and the ability to synthesize and apply information. Creativity, synthesis, and innovation. The process of synthesis. Synthesis is the act of combining disparate ideas into a new, coherent whole. It is often described as the mental sex that produces innovative offspring of thought. Whether you're mixing ideas from different domains or creating something entirely new, synthesis requires both creativity and disciplined thought. Feedback loops in creative work. Effective creative work depends on strong feedback loops. Immediate, honest feedback, whether from peers, mentors, or the market, is critical for refining ideas. In the absence of feedback, you risk persisting with flawed approaches. This applies to all creative endeavors: writing, design, business strategy, and more. Analogies and metaphors. Using analogies and metaphors is a powerful way to understand complex ideas. For example, comparing the human mind's capacity to a computer's CPU and memory can help clarify the difference between intelligence, processing power, and knowledge, stored data. Analogies serve as cognitive shortcuts that make abstract concepts more tangible. Decision-making and problem-solving. The nature of decisions. Knowing a lot of facts does not automatically equate to making good decisions. Effective decision-making involves recognizing when to act and when to pause. Sometimes even a coin flip can break the cycle of overthinking, helping you overcome analysis paralysis. The key is to focus on solving today's problems rather than over-optimizing for a future that may never materialize. Feedback and iterative improvement. Every action you take provides feedback. Use that feedback to refine your methods and adjust your course of action. In business, this is often called pivoting. In life, it means learning from your mistakes quickly and adapting. The sooner you act, the sooner your subconscious begins to work on optimizing your decisions. Avoiding external problem ownership. Don't waste your energy solving problems that aren't truly yours. Instead, concentrate on the issues you face personally. When you focus on what you perceive as your own challenges, you free yourself from the constraints of other people's perspectives and beliefs. Cognitive biases, fallacies, and critical thinking. Understanding and overcoming biases. Our thinking is often distorted by biases such as confirmation bias, survivorship bias, and the unqualified percentage fallacy. For example, percentages can be misleading if you don't know what they're of. Similarly, framing effects can alter your perception, based solely on presentation. Being aware of these biases is the first step in mitigating their influence. Critical thinking means constantly questioning your assumptions and evaluating evidence without the distortion of preconceptions. Common fallacies: correlation versus causation. Just because two events occur together doesn't mean one caused the other. Unqualified percentages. A statistic is only meaningful when you know the total or base from which it is derived. Framing effects. The way information is presented can change your interpretation of it. Logical fallacies in everyday life. Understanding these fallacies helps you avoid being misled. For example, small discounts can sometimes feel like a larger increase in price when compared as a percentage of the final cost, a phenomenon that confuses many consumers. Recognizing such errors in reasoning can improve both your personal decision-making and your ability to critically analyze information. The future of learning and education. Practical education versus traditional academics. Much of traditional education focuses on memorization and regurgitation rather than practical application. The future of education lies in teaching how to learn, think critically, and apply knowledge effectively in the real world. Focus on actionable skills that lead to actual outcomes rather than abstract theory alone. Real-world problem-solving and direct application of learned concepts are far more valuable than theoretical knowledge that never sees practical use. Interdisciplinary learning. The most effective learning happens when you integrate knowledge from different fields. By building connections between disparate domains, you can form a more holistic understanding of the world. Whether it's through analogies, synthesis, or cross-disciplinary projects, merging ideas leads to breakthroughs that isolated learning rarely produces. Leveraging technology and modern tools. Modern tools, from online resources to advanced search engines, have made information almost infinitely accessible. However, the challenge now is to filter and apply that information effectively. It's not enough to simply know. You must use what you know to innovate and improve your life. Conclusion: harnessing your full potential. Your mind is an incredibly powerful tool, capable of absorbing vast amounts of information and synthesizing new ideas. However, raw knowledge without action is meaningless. The real challenge and opportunity lies in transforming what you learn into real-world results. Be disciplined. Build habits that encourage action rather than endless learning. Use feedback. Embrace immediate feedback loops to continually improve. Stay creative. Leverage analogies and synthesis to turn abstract concepts into tangible ideas. Focus on what matters. Concentrate on solving your own problems and taking decisive action today. The ultimate goal is to harness your intelligence, creativity, and discipline so that you not only accumulate knowledge but also transform it into meaningful, impactful action. As you continue to learn and apply new ideas, remember that your habits, environment, and internal mindset are key amplifiers of your success.